Hello to everyone. Thanks for having me here. So, I am a weirdo, but I probably don't have much work that is weird. But it does produce some weird things. So I will try to frame it in this session about weirdness and internet. So mainly I define myself as a conceptual artist that considers how society is organized and impacted by the conflicts over the control of information system within global networks. So it's not really much about technology itself, but what it produces. So my work is mainly research-based and focused on provoking reaction that unveil hidden system and struggle over the potential of information society. So for doing so, I had to challenge power structure of today as Google, Facebook, Amazon, Twitter, PayPal, Visa, Cayman Island, NATO, and so on. And they are, for me, a kind of media performances art that involve the public in debates, question, and understand the social condition of information society. And so through the debates are actually happening some weird things. I stage and perform conflicts over information that touches several areas, so knowledge, so access, distribution, asymmetry of information, economy, ownership, monetization, public-private information, and so privacy, the dichotomy between public, private, and transparency, and that means also democracy, so how information society can be enhanced but can be oppressed, and the governance can change and the law can be changed based on the flow of information, and semiology as well, so how structures, specific structures of information change the perception of our reality. So this was the theory, but let me present the last project that is actually the first time that I presented because it was published just a couple of months ago. And so I hope it will go well. So in this project called Daily Paywall, I was basically stealing every single article news that the Wall Street Journal, Financial Times, and The Economist were publishing every day, every hour, actually. So at the end of the day, I collected 60,000 pay-per-view articles. So we all know that these are the main financial newspapers out there. And this is how it looks a paywall, if you don't know what it is. So you want to read the news, and you can't actually read it because you are supposed to pay, and you are supposed to have just to afford it. So there was the journal, this is the Financial Times. It's actually the most annoying sometimes regarding paywalls. And this is the economy. So you can't actually read anything if you don't pay, right? So to break this system, I just paid. So I subscribed to their service, and I created a script that automatically was logged in with my account, and every few minutes was just trying to find out all the articles published and store them on my server. So this script was basically running continuously for a year. And then, with all this huge amount of information that I collected, I wanted to make my own financial newspaper. So this is actually the Daily Paywall that I have also here in local. So this is like a list, endless list of financial news, right? But it's not just about distributing content for free, for providing, democratic access to information, but actually the conceptual catch here is that I wanted to pay everyone to read some particular featured article. And then I also wanted to pay journalists that were invited to claim compensation for what they write. And this system through a crowdfunding model where everyone could basically pay random people to read some particular articles in a way. So I selected a few articles. These are just a few. In total, they were 8, 9. And you could actually make money by reading this article, potentially. So what and why? So it's really about media publishing, right, and consumption, media consumption. So the pay-to-read became the pay-to-read schema, a circular economic model in which profit generated from a huge amount of curated content is invested into informing the public and educating the public about socio-economic contradiction, while offering reward to critical journalists democratically. So this was the concept, the thing that I built, right? And then it starts the actual performance. So on December 20th, I sent this press release to 10,000 email contacts. Over the year, I created a huge mailing list, and through social media contacts, of course. And then I also printed a version of my own newspaper that was distributed in New York and in bookshops with those 8 articles, basically. So every time that I launch a performance like that, somehow it happens that I can categorize the reaction and engagement of the audience in these 3 categories, let's say. Personal reaction, media reaction, and legal reaction is really common. So with this one happened as well. So these are actually personal reaction, and I was surprised because some people really got this personal. So for example, this is someone writing me back saying, I really like your work, but this is really bad. And it's just like a writer that actually lost her job because of the crisis in the publishing industry, right? And someone instead say, fuck you, Paolo, because why you're trying to raise money for your projects? Well, sorry, it's not much. Other ones, they just say, oh, this is a great idea, and when are you going to pay me, and blah, blah, blah. And other ones were saying, what, is it legal even to read this article? Can I really use this information? I am allowed to just use your project? And then you have the media reaction that is also a kind of a snowball. So it started with an interview, and then it went on Wired, and then it started to be international and translated in several languages. And then you have the legal reactions. And so after just 4 or 5 days that the project was published, of course, I started to receive complaints, or actually citizen's letter, kind of. In this case, was the Financial Times that complained to my ISP, my server, that I was publishing copyrighted material, and so they asked to take down everything. So one day I woke up and I didn't have any control on the domain name, on the data, on the code. Everything was basically gone. The same day I received also this email from the Wall Street Journal that instead say, well, you violated the term and service of Wall Street Journal, but we are going to refund you of $7 for the days that you will miss from your subscription. So actually, Wall Street Journal are nice. So at the end of the day, the performance for my concept works out. So people were donating money for sustaining the system from $1 to $100. So I raised $400. And people, of course, wanted to get paid to read these articles, so $500. But somehow, after waiting that the things were more quiet, I asked for receiving more regarding the complaints from the Financial Times. It was interesting. This is actually the letter that they sent to my server, and it says, well, apparently this digital artist called Paolo Cirio, it's not sure, admitted to hacking the Financial Times authentication system. And it's also interesting how they are aggressive in protecting their copyright material. They say that you are not even supposed to share the article via email, so you're not supposed to even send a link of the article almost. And they start to list a few law, like copyright law, that I apparently violated. So there are like at least 5, 2 from the European Union, 1 from UK, and 1 that is international, and so on. So they were pretty aggressive in their claims. But at the end of the email, I find out that actually the Financial Times is actually owned by this company, Person PLC, that, funny enough, I didn't know anything about that. So that, for me, was the weirdest thing, because then I could keep researching and investigating about Person PLC, and I find out that they are the owner of the Financial Times and also The Economist, and they are the largest public publisher and education company worldwide. And so basically it operates all over the world. But the interesting thing that they are really pushing data-driven education, and they want to dominate that market. And it has enormous influence in the education in America, in the US, and it is leader in testing and online degrees. So basically the same thing that I was trying to do, but they really try to do that for money and through corrupting the education system. So it is really an evil company. And and has been persecuted and under investigation in several states in US for corrupting public officials and getting contracts, basically. And then is doing a crazy thing about data mining of the students, and it prohibits teachers to criticize it, and so on and so on. You can really investigate on your own. Yeah, so the interesting thing is this interview that CEO of Person gave to the Wall Street Journal, saying the ability to put content and application together, that will really allow to be the king. In a way, the king is naked now. Okay, so I will present another project that is Loophole for All. So this is also about finance. It's also about distribution of information, transparency, and so on. In this case, I wanted to provide a service to democratize offshore business for people who don't want to pay for the earning. It empowers everyone to evade taxes, hide money and debt, and get away with anything by stealing identity of real offshore companies. So in this case, also took me quite a bit of research and investigation, and so I interviewed the expert about offshore finance out there already a few years ago to understand what was first of all about. And then I decided to focus on Cayman Island, although there are like plenty of offshore countries, including Switzerland, of course. Somehow the data of companies incorporated the Cayman Island wasn't public. So I went to the website of the Cayman Island Registry, where you can find also the register of people that get married. And among those, there are also companies that are incorporated in the Cayman Island. And so through a script, I managed to extract to get all the list of the companies that ended up to be more than 200,000 companies incorporated there. Among them, multinationals, banks, and a weird name that no one knows what they're about. So what to do with those names? Well, I found then a certificate of incorporation that is a document that basically is the ID of this company. And so I just decided to counterfeit it with my own certificate of incorporation, with my name, my real signature, but keeping the name of the companies and the real tax number of the company. And so then I just start to sell these identities, these documents on Loophole for All. So on this website, you can search for any name of company that you like, and then you can buy this certificate. You could buy this certificate, and you could also buy a mailbox at the Cayman Islands, so properly pretending to be those company. The reason why it could work is because at the Cayman Island, there is a secrecy regarding the real owner of this company, right? They sell anonymity. So because of that, everyone can pretend to be that company, that owner of that company. And so this is really about corporate identity theft. That is actually a real thing happening. So in this project also happened that it generated media reaction, personal reaction, and legal reaction. So the media reaction was first on the Cayman Island. That was funny enough for me. So this is like a video that you can see online. You don't screen it. From the national TV, the Cayman Island, where they say this hacker is just doing copy and paste. Don't worry, it's not gonna change everything here. And so that generated, though, some debate inside the Cayman Island. It was really interesting because usually the critiques always come from outside, right? So this is like someone saying why the government doesn't sue these artists, and someone say, oh, this is just like, you know, a comedian might say that the real ones are also fake, which is true. And another interesting press reaction is from Bermuda. So it happened that Bermuda, this is the newspaper from Bermuda, and they were worried that these artists could go there and target through the same system by counterfeiting the certificate of incorporation. So somehow it was working as a threat. And then I start to get kind of personal reaction somehow. So again, people writing me and say, oh, I have a store, a fruit store here in Spain. Could I use your offshore system to not pay taxes for, you know, selling banana, basically? And yes, usually I reply them, I explain what is the idea behind and so on. So, but after a while, that actually after a couple of weeks that I was selling these companies for real, and I was making money, PayPal, that was basically the platform that I used to sell this service, basically froze all the money that they made and banned the account on PayPal, basically saying that I was engaging people in illegal activity. But the interesting thing is that this letter is from Luxembourg. That's another offshore center, so it's really questionable here who is actually breaking the law and which law. And so, in fact, this project really regards what is law today in a globalized world and you know, interconnected world that's online. Where is the jurisdiction that hold on financial transaction or any type of crime, right, at this point. So to publish this project, I set up the same structure that multinational use to avoid legal liability and also avoiding taxes. So I am based in New York, so that is my headquarters, and it's in the center. And I incorporated myself in the city of London, that is another offshore center. And the financial transactions were happening in Luxembourg, so I was supposing to pay or not to pay taxes in London and transferring the cash in New York. And while the incorporation also like all to shield my legal responsibility for what I was doing at the Cayman Island, while my citizenship is Italian, so it was really hard to look after me from the Cayman Island and also from the US. And the data is instead stored in a server in California that facilitates the publishing of this kind of data. So this was my structure, pretty much a basic thing that every company would do today. So another kind of personal reaction was from this real, honest, legit company at the Cayman Island that say, you know, we are concerned about the identity theft, these things promote that, what's going on here, and they say, okay, sorry, you weren't like on my list as a target, so I will just remove you. But there are also people that instead got really upset. So in this case, for example, it's a small company, and it's like really saying, insulting me, and saying, Cayman Island is actually part of the UK territory, so I am going to call the local police here, and I will put you in jail. And they reply, no, please don't do that, and so on, and I try to engage them in a conversation. So after a while, there are the big fish coming up. So this, for example, this is a huge hedge fund company based in Hong Kong and Beijing. And so they asked to remove 4 companies, this Snow Lake China. And so the interesting thing that they always send the letter to this London address, City of London address. And also in this case, it's really interesting for me because this is also a major bank and it's sent from One Wall Street. And I live in Chinatown, I live down the street. So it's interesting that the neighbor is like trying to send me legal threats through London while it's actually next door to me. It's a personal thing. And instead, this is also a really recent one. So this is like the major energy company in South Korea. So it's like the BP of Korea, basically, writing me and say, you have to remove absolutely this subsidiary from your website. I am a New York lawyer, and blah, blah, blah. So such of like aggressive letter. And then I look it up and I find that there are actually, I also try to negotiate with these people. It's really risky, but I try. So in this case, I found there are 5 companies with this name. So I asked them, can you really claim the ownership of all these 5 companies? So trying to challenge them on the truth, and they say, well, I claim the ownership of only 2 companies that have basically the same name. As you can see, it's like Milmeran Holding 5 and 6, but I don't know who owned the 1 and 2, right? Okay, who knows? And this is also like an interesting one. So in this case, they were really more aggressive. And this is like basically a law firm based on the Isle of Man, that I guess you guys know where it is. And these guys are basically lawyers that set up offshore business for rich people, right? So in this case, they asked me to remove every single company that contained the name Sovereign, that unfortunately was really common, and so I couldn't really negotiate with them, and they asked, yes, but you have to prove ownership of these companies, otherwise I'm not going to remove them. Unfortunately, they were 90 companies, and with that keyword, so I had to remove everything because they didn't want to negotiate everything, and they didn't want to get in trouble with a really powerful law firm. But the interesting thing that then I look it up, investigate on the name of the founder of this law firm, accounting firm, that is this guy, Hodgson Bilton, that's like a British billionaire, of course, but the interesting thing is also like art collectors, and he ran 2 art awards in China and in Africa. And so it was really nice to get in touch with a powerful collectors, after all. That is all.